fairly busy and quite sweaty kitchen, folks. The Sunday dinner is on, and yes, that means it is Sunday. It's April, it's sunny, it's warm, and I'm ready to do my first brew of 2024. So the choice for this brew has been dictated by the yellow sticker bargains. The yellow sticker gods at Morrison's Yeadon have dictated what my flavour wine's going to be. It's going to be strawberry, because look at that for a bargain. £3.29 for 600 grams down to 33 pence. So I've got 4.5 punnets of those. So that's nearly 2.5 kilograms of strawberries just there. And I'm going to mix those strawberries with rhubarb to make a strawberry and rhubarb sparkling wine. So just to explain, this one's been opened already because I'm dehydrating some strawberries to go on cereal. But all I need to do with each of the strawberries is remove the greenery from the top and chuck them into the pan. So I've got this to do repetitively for a lot of strawberries. I'll come back to you when they're all in the pan. Right, that's all my strawberries in the pan. I'm going to add to that a pint of water, which should probably put about 1 centimetre in the bottom of the pan. I'm going to put the lid on, put it on a small ring, get the gas on, and I'm going to turn that right down to nothing so it's on as low a setting as possible, and I want some steam to build up so that fruit breaks down. So all I've got to do now is leave that, and I'll come back to it in a bit. Right, I need some rhubarb now to add to the mix. Let's get in that garden. So there's the big lovely rhubarb plant. Look at the size of it. I want to pull about 8 stalks up. So pull and twist like so. It's just a case of topping and tailing. Top, tail. Good stuff. So I've ended up picking a few more rhubarb stalks than what I'd intended. But the plant was throwing so much out that I think I needed to pick these to give it a chance to grow more of them, because it will keep producing. It's a really, really good plant. And realistically, I'm going to have 2 months worth of good rhubarb off that, providing I keep picking it and letting it grow again. So I've got the shower tap on, and I'm just going to wash each of my stalks because they're a bit soily. So I'll come back to you when I've washed them all. So my rhubarb's washed, but I need to know exactly how much I've got. I've just weighed this pan, it weighs 646 grams, so I'm going to start to chop this up now and put it into the pan to weigh it. So smallish pieces, straight in the pan. I've got to do that with all the rhubarb. Right, that's all the rhubarb in the pan. Let's see what that weighs. That's coming in at 2188, but I've got to minus 646. So I've got 1.5 kilos of rhubarb, plus the 2.5 kilos of strawberries, but I'm going to add something else in to give it a bit more flavour, and that's going to be some hops, but that won't be until the stage when it comes to start putting it all together. So just like with the strawberries, I'm going to add a pint of water into the rhubarb, and that'll just mean that some steam builds up within there. So I've now got the rhubarb on a back ring, so I'm going to turn the gas on, ignite that, and I'm going to leave that to just do its thing and steam like the strawberries next to it. So just a wine update, and we can see that the strawberries have come to a nice liquidy, mushy constituency. The rhubarb is still quite fibrous. These are going to take a while yet. Hey folks, it's preparation day 2 for my wine. I'll just show you what I've got. So this is yesterday's rhubarb and strawberry, which are both now nicely soft. I'm going to deal with these later on, but what I want to do first of all is to put the rhubarb in with the strawberry, because I need to use this pan again. And I'm just going to pour and hopefully not do a big slop. It's quite syrupy. Ugh, bit of a slop, but not too bad. It can be worse. So these are Cascade hops from my own garden, which I've dehydrated and packed. They've been in here since last August, September time. No air's got to them. They should hopefully still have some flavour. These are going to go into this pan, or at least some of them are going to go into this pan. And what I'm going to make is a nice hoppy infused tea. So I've just got to encourage it to come out by tickling the bottom. Ooh, sounds rude, doesn't it? In actual fact, it's the top, not the bottom. I've just got it upside down. But you can see there's a good amount there for some bittering. And I'm going to add to that some spring water. Then put the lid on. This is now going on a low heat, and I'm going to leave it to make a hoppy tea. Then the remainder of this water is going to go into my big pan. So that's a couple of litres in there. And I'm going to add to that a further 5 litres. And what I want to do with this water is to add some heat to it. So the gas goes on and that's ignited. So I'm going to turn that up a little bit. That's it. And I want this to come to a pre-simmer. So the lid goes on for now. And once again, I'm playing the waiting game. Just a little update an hour later. Things are warming up. Got some steam there. The house smells very hoppy. That's always a good sign. I just want this to come to a very gentle simmer, and then I'm switching it completely off. As for the big pan, we've got some steam. So I've got a nice big 5 kilo bag of sugar, and what I want to do is put 4 kilos into that water. So I'm going to use a jug as a scoop, and I'm going to take sugar out until I'm nearly at the end of the bag, and then I'm going to keep weighing the bag, and when I've got a kilo left I'll know that I've taken 4 kilos out. The sugar and the bag weighs 5,046 grams, so this bag weighs 46 grams if I haven't been done out with sugar. So I'm just going to keep pouring this in. I'll come back to you when it's all in there. Right, that's all my sugar in the pan, and you can see it's gone quite opaque. It's brewing sugar, dextrose monohydrate, and it dissolves really easily with heat. So I'm actually going to turn the ring off now. I don't need to leave the heat on. I'm just going to stir this up. It's nice and buoyant, as you would expect. I'm going to turn the ring off, put the lid on, and once again that's it. I'm just playing the waiting game. Right, I can see my hoppy tea is now simmering, so I'm going to switch that off too. Just going to give it a quick stir. Make sure it's all nicely mixed together. Lid goes on. And that's it for the time being. So I've got my fruit at the back. I've got my hoppy tea just here. And I've got my dissolving sugar just there. That's hot and that one's hot. I need to leave them to cool down. So I'm going to come back to you tonight, and then we'll get all this put together and we'll get fermentation started. See you then. Good very early morning from the kitchen, folks. It's actually preparation day 3 for my strawberry, rhubarb and hops wine. I've been a little bit tardy with this, but I've had lots of things to do, and I'm now going to crack on with it and get it finished this morning before I go to work. So I've got my strawberry and rhubarb, I've got my hoppy tea, I've got my sugar water, and now I've got pectolase, yeast nutrient, yeast, and some more water. And yes, you will spot a brew bucket. Now, I did say I was going to do this in demijohns, and I still am going to do it in demijohns, but I'm going to start it in the brew bucket. Now, I'm aiming for 3 demijohns. I might end up with a little bit more, hopefully not less. But the thing is, if I put this mixture into demijohns, I'm going to end up with a ton of sediment. So I'd rather put it in the brew bucket to start with, let it get going, and then rack it, and then leave it to finish fermenting in the demijohns. So that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing to get in is 5 litres of spring water. And that lines the bottom of the bucket for me nicely. I've got my hoppy tea here and I need to strain this because I don't want the hops going into this. So I've got my colander sieve here. What could possibly go wrong? It looks like something that the police have seized in a drugs raid, actually. And in fact, the hop plant is related to the cannabis plant, I've read this week. I'll show you. See what I mean? Dr. Green Thumb. Calling Dr. Green Thumb, calling Dr. Green Thumb. Just going to give that a little squish down. Now the lovely rhubarb and strawberry. Plop. And what I'm going to do is something I don't usually do, but I'm just going to break down that rhubarb and strawberry a little bit with my whisk. What I've made now is a giant size smoothie. Right, so this is heavy. So I believe a litre of water is a kilo, is it? Plus 4 litres of sugar, so this should be about 9 kilos. Anyway, shut up Stuart, pour it in. And I've got more than I anticipated in the bucket now. I'm up to the 23 litre mark, which is definitely more than I thought there was going to be. I've obviously not done this for a while. This is my first brew this year, so I'm a little bit out in terms of quantities. So, yeah, I've ended up with what's definitely going to be 4 demijohns and not 3. Now, even though this is going to be more diluted than what I'd expected it to be, I'm hoping that because I've left all that rhubarb and all that strawberry in there, and because I've pulped it, and you know, that's going to be rich with bits and bobs inside it, I'm going to let it ferment with that in rather than just the juice. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's going to still be tasty. Now it's time to get my dry ingredients in there. I'm going to start with pectolase. Now pectolase is essential for breaking down the pectic enzymes, which is in the fruit, and the strawberry's got a lot in there. Now my pectolase is a bit old and it's just in one big lump, so just giving it a stab with my spoon. I needed to buy some new. I'm using all last year's back end ingredients that I didn't use up with my ciders. It's a bit big and lumpy, but it should break down inside there. Everything looks a bit Breaking Bad, doesn't it? Right, I'm just going to get that in the big lumps. Now the yeast nutrient, and this is also in need of breaking down a bit. Now I shouldn't need tons of nutrient because there is a lot of nutrition in that, but I'm putting it in anyway. So I'm going to put 1 heaped and 2 heaped dessert spoonfuls of yeast nutrient into that. And finally my yeast. Now let me talk you through my yeast. This is Van Class homebrew and winemaking products, dried active yeast for use in winemaking and brewing. I bought it at the end of last year. I don't know what made me buy this one particularly. I think it might have been labelled as something else online, and then it's come and it's just kind of a generic yeast, but that's what it is. It came from eBay, I think. So I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, and 4 rounded teaspoonfuls of Van Class dried active yeast in there. I'll have definitely searched for something thinking I was going to get a particular strain of yeast, and I've just been sent that. Whether it's that strain or not, who knows. Right, the big spoon, give it a stir round. It's got a nice frothy top. I just want that yeast to fall through the foam. The foam is there because I've blended it. It's put some oxygen into it essentially, which won't hurt it at this stage. It will all dissipate out. and the CO2 will push it out when fermentation begins. Right, I've got the hydrometer. This might be an exercise in futility. Let's pop it in and see if it sinks. Oh yeah, it's buoyant enough. Okay, let me just have a look at that. So it says 1.060, and I was hoping for a higher original gravity than that. This is not going to be particularly strong wine. I think I've diluted it too much. Now it could also be that I'm not getting an accurate reading because of the amount of foam on top. I have tried to sort of push it so I get to the right stage. But what I think I'll do is I'm going to take another gravity reading tomorrow, and if I'm still not happy with it, I'm going to add some more sugar just to bump that up a little bit. But let's see what happens. That's the snap. Right, I've got my bucket labelled up. The only thing remaining now is to put some water into the airlock. I'm just going to pour a little bit in. And that'll do to begin with. It's just that level on both sides. I'm expecting fermentation to actually happen pretty quickly. Strawberry is notoriously a fast fermenter. I think that yeast was pretty good as well from what I can remember. So I'm expecting within 24 hours for this to be giving a good glug, 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 glug sound. So I'll come back to you tomorrow. This is brew day 1 today, 16th of April. I'll come back to you tomorrow on brew day 2 for an update. Unless, of course, fermentation starts today, in which case we'll have an update later today. Right, catch you later, folks. I need to get ready for work. Well, this is a day 1 rather than a day 2 update. And you can see that fermentation has most definitely begun. I can see through the bucket we've got a layer of sedimenty stuff just here. And it's looking good to me. Airlock activity is regular and quite big gassy bubbles. We'll have another update in a couple of days' time. Catch you then. Morning folks, it's brew day 2, and I know I said I wasn't going to come back until brew day 3, but I've changed my mind. I think I've got the gravity reading wrong and I need to take a reading sooner rather than later. So I'm going in there now to take another reading. Oh. So lid police, look away. Huge Krausen. So I'm just going to try and get some in this jug without getting Krausen and rubbish. I'm just looking for the liquid. Right, that's enough. I'm going to put that down there, get the lid back on. Right, hydrometer tube. Let's get that gravity read. I think when I took the gravity the first time, this is not going back in incidentally, so I'm going to put my finger there. When I took the gravity the first time, I don't think I got an accurate reading. And if it was only 1.60, which what the reading was, then it's not strong enough for wine and I need to add more sugar. Right, okay, let's see what it says now. It's currently on 1.070, 1070. That's more like the ballpark I'm looking for. I just need to do some calculations and decide whether or not I'm going to put some more sugar in. So if this goes the whole way, then it should be 10.5%. So if it's over 10%, I'm happy enough with that. So I'm not going to put any more sugar in. I'm going to leave it. Right, I'll catch you on a future brew day, either tomorrow or the day after, when it'll come to taking the lid off and giving it all a stir. Catch you then. Morning folks, it's brew day 4 and it's time to lift the lid and give this bad boy a stir. So it's fermenting nicely. Temperatures have not been amazing. It's down to 15.5 at the minute, but it is 7 AM. It tends to get up to about 18.5, 19 at the peak when the fire's on particularly. At this time of year though, temperatures are definitely less than what they should be. I would have expected it to be a couple of degrees warmer. Nonetheless, it's still fermenting nicely. So I'm just looking for the grip, there it is, and I'm just going to lift the lid. That's it. Get that off. I'm just going to rest it on top. And then with my big spoon, my big stainless steel spoon, I'm just going to break the surface up. You can see that's nicely krausenal. Lots of CO2 being released, and I'm just going to do a round motion like this, a circular motion to lift the bottom up without actually dipping the spoon too deep. Powerful smells coming off it, smells good. I can get the strawberry, and I think I can get the rhubarb too. The hops not so from the smell. Okay, that'll do. And then it's just a case of getting a lid back on. So that's it for today. I'm going to repeat this process every 3 days, and I'll come back to you probably in about 10 days' time when it comes to racking this into demijohns. See you then. Hey folks, it's brew day 11 for my strawberry, rhubarb and hops wine. Fermentation has finished, and in fact for 2 days there has been nothing happening in the airlock. So I strongly suspect that fermentation is over and all the sugars have been eaten. So today I want to rack it. Now I want to double check that fermentation is over. So before I start racking, I'm just going to take a gravity reading. Smells very good. Hydrometer. And I am on a gravity of 0.990. Fermentation is done. The sugars have been eaten. That yeast has gone. What a cracking bit of yeast that is. Not bad to say it was just some random miscellaneous yeast that was mislabelled. Never mind. Right, anyway, so that is the hydrometer in the bucket. And right now, using this cleaned plastic jug, I am going to transfer from the bucket into 4 glass demijohns with a funnel and a filter, and this is a filter from a coffee machine. Essentially, I'm trying to avoid getting any lumps and bits into the demijohn, so I've just got the liquid, and then I want to leave it to settle so the sediment goes to the bottom and that I end up with a clear brew. Fingers crossed. So it literally is a case of dip and then pour through the filter into the demijohn. And repeat and repeat. I'll come back to you when I fill the first demijohn up. So that's my first demijohn filled, slightly overfilled actually. I shall take those out, put them in the next demijohn, just tip a little bit out of there. And then with the filled demijohn, I'm just going to add an airlock and a bung, just to keep that protected. There will be some CO2 produced by that, I think, and I might get a little bubble or two, but it'll be nothing much. And I can leave that now to clear naturally. I've got the other demijohns to fill. It's just a repetitive process. There's no point in you watching me do that over and over. So once I've filled all the demijohns, I'll come back to you and show you what I've got. Right, I'm back. I've got all 4 demijohns filled. I've cleaned them, I've dried them. I just want to label them up, but I'm just going to show you the different gradients of colours. So that was the first one out, second, third, fourth, and you can see how it goes from being quite dark to something which is quite milkshaky. This is the one which is going to have the highest line of sediment in the bottom. This one will have the least amount of sediment in the bottom. Incidentally, I'm sorry about the background noise. I've got the dishwasher on. It's a necessary evil. Right, I've made some labels for my demijohn. So the first one that comes out is demijohn number 1. So I've just basically said strawberry, rhubarb and hops wine. That was the original gravity. That's what it was at racking. That was when I started it. That's when I've racked it. And that number 1 denotes it's demijohn number 1. I've done one for each of the demijohns with a different number at the bottom. Now that's all my demijohns nicely labelled. Okay, I've got another little job to do. I think I'm wasting my time completely, and I think this is an inappropriate and wrong time to do it. But I did say at the beginning, because I didn't have much pectolase, that I might add a little bit later on. I haven't done so yet, but what I'm going to do is put a little bit in each demijohn. So the wonders of the internet again. Thought I was ordering a big tub of pectolase, but I've got a little tub for big tub prices. Yes, read what it says in the small print. So for each demijohn, I'm simply going to remove the bung for a second, get my little funnel in, and I'm going to put a small amount of pectolase, literally that much on a teaspoon, in through the funnel and hope for the best. I'll do that for each demijohn, then get back to you. Okay, that's a little bit of pectolase in each demijohn. It's probably a big waste of time, but you never know, it might help. The strawberries will have a lot of pectin in them, and the pectic enzymes cause haziness. So the idea of the pectolase is to try and break that down. Now, I strongly suspect it's far too late in the process for it to do anything, but we'll see. Welcome to the busy and messy office. This is where my wine is going to sit and hopefully clear for the next few weeks or months. In terms of temperature, this is the coolest room in the house, so it's got the best chance of clearing in here. I'm just going to leave it. I'm in no rush whatsoever, so I'll come back to you when I feel that it's cleared enough, whenever that may be. Catch you then. Good morning from the kitchen, folks. It's brew day 69, dude. Excellent. One for the Bill and Ted fans. If you've never seen Bill and Ted, then you're just not going to get that. Don't worry about it. It's brew day 69 for my wine. Let's have a look. It's been clearing in the demijohns for 7 weeks, and I think it looks rather nice and clear now. And I am ready to bottle it today. So I've already been up for 2 hours sanitising bottles and doing other bits and bobs in the kitchen. But yeah, it's basically ready to go. So I want to get it out of these and into these. I'm going to demonstrate it on one demijohn only for the purposes of this film, but I'm going to be repeating the process over and over. And then after bottling, I'm going to leave this for between 4 and 6 weeks to condition and hopefully develop a sparkle, and hopefully the flavours will enhance as well with that. Right, shut up Stuart, get on with the job. So I'm going to begin by adding a bit of priming sugar into each bottle, just standard household sugar. There is the equivalent of about a teaspoon or so going into each of these bottles. What that will do is give the yeast in there something to do, something to play with, because there is yeast left in suspension in there. It will find this sugar, it will smash the sugar apart, and it will create CO2 as a byproduct of doing that. Once the CO2 builds up in the bottles, that will lead to a pressure build-up, and that is what will give my wine a sparkle, fingers crossed. So I'm bottling into wine, champagne and Prosecco bottles today. Each of these bottles is tolerant of pressure and is in fact over 700 grams in weight. So these are the heftier bottles. I don't keep the ones that are less than 700 grams in weight. Also, before I begin, I'd like to apologise for any snuffliness that you might experience in this segment of the film. I haven't got a cold, I haven't got COVID. We're having a mad hay fever season in Britain on the 3 days of summer that we've so far had. It's been pretty awful. So on demijohn number 1, it is bung out. The siphoning tube goes in, and I'm going to use this black clip to keep it steady, trying to minimise any disturbance of the sediment in the bottom, and I've done a pretty good job of not disturbing it, so that's good. Now there's no reaction to this going in, there's no bubbles clinging to the side of the tube, so that means there's no sparkle in this wine at this point. So whilst the target of this is to get them into the bottles, the first bit that's going to come out is going to go into the hydrometer tube, so I can take another final gravity. It was on 0.990 at racking. It might have changed since then. Hopefully for the better, if so. Right, let's get sucking. And the first lot is going into the hydrometer tube, and then we're into the bottles. And I'm speaking like a racing commentator. So the wine is flooding out. Lovely stuff coming through there, nice and clear. Looks good in the demijohn, and I'm sure it's going to look good in the glass at the final result. So no immediate reaction to the priming sugar on the first bottle, and then I'm into the second bottle. Right, so we go from bottle number 2 into bottle number 3. Okay, I'm going to carry on emptying this demijohn. When I've got all 6 bottles filled, I'll come back to you. And that's bubbles in the siphoning tube, so lift that out quickly, drain what's there into the bottle, pop that back in there. So the last bottle is very slightly short, but I can fill that up with what's in the hydrometer tube. So I'm just going to have a final look at the gravity again. So the hydrometer is in there, and in fact, this has gone below 0.990. It looks, oh, let me look at that again. Can you go below? Yeah, you can. It has in fact fallen below 0.990. Let me just turn that round. 1, 2, 3, 4 from the top of the scale. So that is 0.988. 0.988 being the final gravity. That's not bad going. So it's definitely paid to take another gravity reading, definitely. So I'm just going to pour this into there. Nice and steady away. Lovely, and I've got a little sampler there which I'll try after this has been done. So with my bottles, I need to bung them. Here's my bungs. They've been in boiling water, well, just under boiling water for the past 15 minutes. It gives them a final clean. Very hot, but it also makes them a little bit malleable because they're plastic and sometimes they can be hard to push in. So you get the bung, palm of your hand, and sometimes it's better to use a tea towel or wear a glove. And that goes in like that. That's gone in nicely. Now, because CO2 is going to build up in there and pressure is going to build up, that bung will go pew. So I need a cage. Cage gets pulled down tightly and then twisted and then twisted and then twisted, etc. You get the picture. Okay, that is one bottle bunged and caged. I buy the bungs online from eBay or Amazon periodically. They last forever. You just keep reusing them and washing them and reusing them and washing them, etc. The cages sometimes are donated from places like micropubs or given to me by people that buy champagne or Prosecco or whatever. And every now and again I have to buy some. And each cage is good for 3 or 4 uses before it breaks. Anyway, I've got to bung and cage the remainder of this first batch of bottles. Once I've done that, I'll come back to you. That's the first 6 bottles bunged and caged. I'm just going to give them a little shower because they will have sticky residue on the outside, so I like to get them clean. So that's my first 6 bottles pretty much done apart from the labels. I'm now leaving them to just dry off while I get on with the rest. So what I've just done, I've got to repeat that entire process 3 more times. There's absolutely no point in you watching me do that, so I'll come back to you when all of the bottles are filled, bunged and caged. Catch you then. Right, that's nearly all done. I've still got the labelling to do and to put the bottles away. But I just thought I'd have a little nifter out the hydrometer tube just to see what my thoughts are thus far. The strongest flavour that comes through is the hops. But, interestingly, it's really enveloping my tongue from the outsides in. It's zesty, it's dry, but not too dry. And on the back burner, there is a bit of sweet. I think, yeah, the rhubarb and the strawberry does come through a little bit on the back end. It needs time to condition, and with conditioning, the hop flavour, which is dominant, will lessen and the other flavours will come through. That's my experience of using hops in wines and ciders as to what happens. This will be one of those wines that just gets better with age. Anyway, before I start cleaning up and so forth, let's have a look at what the ABV of this brew is. So I started on an original gravity of 1.070. I deduct from that the final gravity, which was 0.988. That equals 0.082. I multiply this figure by 131.25, which equals, drumroll please, 10.76%. Let's just say 11%, because when that secondary fermentation does kick in the bottle to make the CO2, there will be a fractional percentage rise. It'll be tiny, but it could just bump it up. So I'm rounding up to 11%, which is a perfectly acceptable ABV for wine. Right, I've now got lots of tidying up to do before I start looking at the labels. I'm going to crack on with that and then I'll come back to you in a bit. Okay, the bottles have dried off. I've got this Fomamo Bluetooth printer. I've designed this label very simply on a program called Printmaster, and I'm going to print it on the Bluetooth printer. dead good, isn't it? Right, we're almost there. Time to get the labels on the bottles. Hopefully straight. There we go. 1 down, 22 to go. I'll come back to you in 5 minutes. Right, I'm done for today, thankfully. I've been at this for over 2 hours, so I'm glad it's over. So the wine is going to stand on top of my drinks cabinet in my living room now for the next month to 6 weeks. I'm just going to leave it there, do nothing with it, and I'm going to let nature take its course. It's currently 24 degrees Celsius up there, and it is summertime now, so it's a room which is built onto a conservatory that's south facing, so therefore it stays warm in summer and it's a perfect temperature for this to condition. The conditioning process will allow the flavours to develop, it will reduce the hoppiness and hopefully enhance the other fruit flavours, but it will also lead to carbonation through the yeast which is left in suspension in there, finding the bits of sugar that are in, smashing it apart and creating CO2. So what I'll find in about 2 or 3 weeks' time is that these bungs stretch the cages as they begin to raise, and when that happens I know that pressure is building up. So it's currently the 23rd of June. I'm aiming to open this on the last week of July, so I'll catch you then. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It is the grand opening and tasting night for my strawberry, rhubarb and hops wine. It's brew day 55. So 55 days from fruit preparation to drinking. Not bad going really, is it? Now, what does it look like in the bottle? Well, it looks like a really nice rosé. I have had this in the fridge, which is why there is a cloudiness. It's not actually the wine, it is just the condensation on the bottle. But that looks pretty good to me, and I'm sure it's going to look fine in the glass. So I obviously want it to look nice. I want it to smell nice. I want a nice, refreshing, fruity smell. And I want it to taste nice. I'd like it to taste like some fruitiness beyond the dryness of the wine. And it probably will be quite dry at 11%. Anyway, shut up, Stuart. Let's crack on. So, this cage has served me well. Oh, spoke too soon. R.I.P. another cage. Right, the fork. So when the cage fails, the fork comes in. And then I just twist the fork. And it will break the wire. Oh gosh, breaking the fork this time. There we go. That was harder than it needed to be. Anyway, the fork survived and we'll fight another day. So, cage, R.I.P. So the bung hasn't visibly raised. It's meant to be a sparkling wine. So I don't know, actually. Am I going to get a pop? I really want a pop. Towel. Right, so when the bung doesn't come out, hold the bung with the towel. Don't twist the bung, twist the bottle. Am I going to get a pop? Oh, that was absolutely pathetic. I mean, right. That's almost like I ain't put any priming sugar in it. I'm now questioning myself. Have I opened a duff bottle here? Let's have a look at this. Let's try and analyse what's happened. Oh, there's a bit of a muckiness on glass. Apologies for that. Never mind. I'll blame our lass. I do load the dishwasher. She unloads it. She's meant to inspect. And yeah, I know you're not supposed to put wine glasses in the dishwasher. I'm a rebel. Right. So it does look nice in the glass, but let's say that it's flat as a pancake. Yeah, it looks nice, but there's no sparkle there. Now, have I opened a duff bottle, or are they all going to be like this? Well, the only way to find out is to open another one, which I'll do tomorrow, but let's have a sniff. So, it doesn't smell lovely and fruity. It smells a bit like not great homebrew. Have I messed up? Right, taste. So the overriding flavour is the hops. It doesn't taste bad actually, and there is a mild effervescence on the tongue. I think this one might be a leave it another 2 months and it might be sparkling. I don't know why, but that's how it seems to be from the profile in my mouth. It is dry, but not too dry. Oh, I'm getting strawberry now. So the immediate first taste was hoppy dryness. Second taste, once my tongue had obviously got a coating, the second taste I got the strawberry. It's actually not bad. If I'd done it as a still wine, I'd be quite happy, but it's meant to be a sparkler. So on the flavour profile, it's not dry, and it's not medium dry either. It's somewhere in between medium dry and dry, but it's not dry, if you know what I'm saying. Taste-wise, it tastes nice, but it isn't the sparkler that I'd wanted. And now the hoppiness has subsided, it's got a fruitiness to it. The smell doesn't smell fruity. It smells like, ooh, that's homebrew. That's what it smells like, but the taste is better than the smell. Maybe that's a strawberry thing, actually. I think I've had that before with strawberries, you know. Anyway, look, the only way I can really compare this is to open another one in a few weeks' time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this Opening and Tasting 1. And I'll open another one in a few weeks' time and see how we're going after that, okay? So not quite the end of the film yet. And I'll catch you on the next segment, whenever that may be. Probably in a month's time, okay? So I'll catch you then. Cheers, folks. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It is Brew Day 94, and hopefully the final opening and tasting for my strawberry, rhubarb and hops wine. Now this is the second opening and tasting. I'm hoping there won't need to be a third. I'm fairly confident that it might have developed a sparkle because look, the bung has lifted. Right, it might not be a big immense rush of bubbles, but I'm certainly hoping for a little bit of effervescence. So let's see what happens. So I've got my fork here, my dessert fork, to help me get into this one because I've wound the cage very tightly. Don't know why I wound it so tightly. I get carried away sometimes. Right. Okay, so this is a Chimay cage and it will live to bottle another cider. Right, am I going to get a pop? Yes! I did! Woo! Right, there's vapour. There's not a mad rush of bubbles, I have to say. It's, you know, it's very gentlemanly. Let's have a look. Yes, it is a sparkler. Get in. So patience is a virtue. There you go, you can see the bubbles. Right, before I go any further, I've got to do this one. Right, on to the serious business. So, I can't really remember what I said last time when I tried it. I seem to remember that it didn't smell great, and yeah, this has still got that kind of funky smell. It is the strawberries, you know, it is. You can smell the strawberries actually. There must be just something about them that comes through in the smell. I also seem to remember that I think it started off quite dry with the hops and then sort of mellowed out afterwards. So let's see how it goes down this time. Ooh. That started with a strawberry flavour. The hops have really diminished. That's not bad at all. That is not a bad drop of wine. And 11%, so it's proper wine as well. Now, it's not a massive fizz on the tongue, but it's definitely sparkling. You feel it. It's very pleasant. It's fruity. Definitely the strawberry is now the dominant flavour, and that is really surprising to me. You get the tang of the rhubarb come through after the strawberry, and the hops is just there in the background now. It's really interesting how that has developed. When you leave wine to condition or ciders to condition, the flavours do really change. It's worth, you know, if you can be patient enough, it's worth holding them back. Yeah, this is a good drop. I'm going to enjoy this tonight. On the profile, it's not far off being a medium. It's not a dry, and that's not a medium dry either. I would say it's in between medium dry and medium, and that's the fruitiness from the strawberries that's caused that. So yeah, very, very pleasant drop indeed. So cheers, folks. It's been a bit of a mission, but we've got there in the end. 94 days, that's not too bad, is it? So I'll catch you on the next film, whatever that may be. Thanks for supporting my channel. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do. Please press the bell so you get the notifications. All that jazz. You know what I mean. Right, anyway, look, shut up, Stuart. Get that wine down your neck. Cheers, folks. Catch you next time.